Alright, welcome to the second video in 2D+1's Becoming a Game Artist video series. Now, today we're going to jump right from learning the interface into making a next generation model. We're starting on that today. Before we can make our next generation piece, though, we really need to understand what next generation means in the 3D world. So, right here I have a high poly model and I have a low poly model. The low poly is a single plane, where the high poly is a couple with an extruded surface here. Now, from this high poly, I created a normal map. All these different colors here are calculate lighting in a different way to make a low poly look high poly. And you'll see that I applied that normal map to this single plane. This is still only one polygon right here, but it looks just like our high polygon. Now, one of the things that you may have noticed is that this isn't just a straight out box. It's kind of beveled in a little bit. And that's because if this were to be just a straight out box, this would calculate as just a flat plane, because there isn't anything it can render out anything to show that it's actually extruding outwards. So everything that we do is going to need to be a little bit exaggerated and a little bit beveled down. Okay, and this is the reference piece for the model that we'll be making today. It's just a simple wooden door. That's all I looked up in Google Images was wooden door, and I found this, and I think this will work nice. So let's open up Max. I have two monitors, so I can just view the concept art in my left monitor, but I understand that a lot of users don't have that. So I'm going to actually show you how to get that piece into 3ds Max. Now, this is going to be a reference art, not an actual piece of concept art. We're just following this as a reference, not trying to make the exact thing. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I selected plane, you'll see that, and I'm just going to create a simple plane and make it have one length seg and one width seg. And now I'm going to drag the JPEG of that wooden door right onto the plane in Max. Oh, and it's looking really funny. We just got to kind of scale it a bit to shape it to what we want it to look like. And like I said, this is a reference, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Alright, that'll be good. I'm just going to move it over. Okay, and now I'm going to, instead of just creating a box out of this, we're going to get a little introduction to polygon modeling. So I'm just going to hold down Shift and drag out a second one of these. And then I'm going to move it up a little bit, turn it to an editable poly. You know how to do that from our last video. Go to border and loop it around, hold down Shift and drag out the polygon. So you'll see that I created 4 new polygons from the single one that I had before. And the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to learn a new tool, and that's cap. So I'm going to go down here and click cap, and you'll see that I just created a polygon that capped the border that I had. Now you have to be careful with that cap tool, because you have to make sure that your polygons are only 4-sided. So yeah, we have our basic square now. Alright, so I don't want this door texture on this square, not yet anyways, and so what I'm going to do is apply a default material to it. To do that, I'm going to click M to bring up the material editor. And then I'm just going to apply this material by clicking this assign material to selection, and then show standard map in viewport. So we just have this basic map. Another thing I could do is just drag that right onto it. And I'm going to close out of my material editor now. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to make is my high poly door. So this is the high polygon version of this door. So that means it doesn't matter how many polygons we have. But I'd still like to see them. So to show my polygons, I'm going to click 7. And up here you'll see how many polygons I have in the scene and how many vertexes I have in the scene. Alright, so let's start making our high poly door. I'm going to go to modify. I'm in editable poly already. And what I'm going to do is just ring and start creating edge loops. And what I'm going to make first is this little square right here. So what I'm going to do is pinch it down, slide it a little bit, kind of get it to be that same basic size. Alright, and then I'm going to do another ring in this direction and connect it. And I want to see my polygons, so I'm going to turn on edge faces. And I want the slide to be 0 now. And we're just going to make it something like this. Alright. Okay, so now I have this basic square blocked out. I'm just going to keep that there, not doing anything with it quite yet. And I'm going to block out these 2 squares up here. So I'm just going to click ring. And once again, this is our high poly model, so it does not matter how many polygons are in this scene. We want this to look as nice as possible, so it'll bake onto our low poly model looking really good. Again, just try and follow what I'm doing here. It's okay if your door looks a little bit different when it's done. Okay, and we're just going to try and shape out this little slope that we have here. Ooh, and I want to make sure that I'm doing the same thing to either side, so our door keeps its symmetry. Alright, that looks pretty good. That's not going to keep it perfect symmetry. I could be using the symmetry tool, but that's something we're going to learn a little bit later. For this door, I think it'll be fine just to do what I'm doing here. And lastly, we'll make these two bottom pieces. Okay, that'll good. So I'm going to select those, and I'm going to, if you can find it, I'm going to select my, my middle piece, and then my top pieces. Now we're going to learn a couple new tools here, but first I think I'm going to scale them all up a little bit, all out. I'm moving them only on the X and Y axis, not on the Z. So, alright, and then I'm going to make sure they're also selected. I'm going to go down to extrude, and I'm going to move them all down just a bit. Now the reason I didn't do this to each one individually is because I want them all to look exactly the same. Alright, now I'm going to click bevel, the settings box next to bevel, and move it down. And bevel is just like extrude, except it has outline, which means you can dilate the polygon that you have selected. So I'm going to move this down a little bit. Maybe not that much. Alright, and then I'm going to extrude it out again, except this time it's going to go up. Alright, and now I'm going to do some chamfering to add even more detail. And so what I'm going to do is select all of these edges around here really quick. If I was using the symmetry tool, this would go a lot faster. Now you may be thinking I could just loop, but you'll see that these edges are connected all over the model. So if I were to loop, it would stretch out all over my model, and I don't want that because I'll be chamfering, and if I have just loose edges selected, it'll really screw it up. Now you want to make sure if you click off of you try and click an edge and you miss it, you may have selected something else. So make sure you go back to make sure that you didn't select any other edge on accident. We only want the outlining edges. Alright. Alright, and now we're just going to go down to chamfer, click the settings box next to chamfer. We're going to move that down a little bit, and you'll see this adds a really nice edge, and chamfer is used a lot of times on weaponry and hard surface modeling to give lighting a nice little shine on the edge of metal or whatever you're using. So I'm going to turn off edge faces now, and you'll see that I have a decent looking door. I don't like how fat it is on the sides, so I'm just going to move those in a little bit. Alright, so here is our basic door outline. Now, we're going to create our low poly from this high poly model. So what I'm going to do is just select this high poly, hold down shift, and move it over. And what I'm going to do is just go to verts, go to my top viewport, and just delete all of these. Okay, and then I'm going to go around my model and delete all of my edges here. And actually I'll just click ring, I'll select all of them, and I'm just going to deselect my only my corner edges. Okay, and then I'm going to go down, hold down control, and click remove to remove them, and then just click the border here and here, and cap. And there's my low poly. So in the next video I'm going to show you how to bake the normals onto the low poly. And I'll see you then.